Okay, this is Unit 3, Lesson 1, Part 2, and I've had to make the videos only 10 minutes, so that's why I'm taking breaks here. Okay, same idea here. We're trying to find this missing side, and what we've got to do is first thing is label our triangle from the angle we're given. We're given the 63 degrees, which means I draw my guy there, and I label my triangle. So this becomes your O, that's your H, and the leftover is the A. Now, just like on the previous video, we have to pick which of the three functions we're using to figure out to find the missing side, which is this side. So remember, you need two pieces of info. You're going to have to use the angle, and you're going to have to use a side you know. The H again is useless. It doesn't tell me anything, so I'm not going to use it. I'm going to use the A. Now, which of the two sides am I picking here? Well, I have to pick the O because that's the one it's asking me. It's saying, what is this? So I have to pick that one, otherwise I can't solve the question. So I'm picking a side that I don't know and I'm looking for, and the side they tell me some information of. So that means I'm using O in A. And if you don't understand that, pause that and watch it again. That's really important. So I'm going to go back and look and see that I'm using TOA because it's O in A. So I go tan of theta equals O over A. Do not skip that step. And then plug in all the info. I know the angle, 63. I know the O, no I don't, it's A. And the adjacent is 1.9. Okay, this now comes down to very simple algebra. Sometimes you're going to divide and sometimes you're going to multiply. You shouldn't guess, you should know. If you write out your function properly, you'll know that to solve for the missing variable, you've got to move this 1.9 over to get A by itself. Well, what is the 1.9 doing? It's dividing on the right side. So if I move it to the left side, I'm going to get tan 63 times 1.9, and now I left with A all by itself on the right side. So for this question, I'm multiplying. So I'm going to go tan 63, press equals in my calculator, and multiply by 1.9, and I get 3.7 centimeters is my answer. So it means this missing side is 3.7 centimeters. Done. Okay, for the second one, you're looking from this perspective. I draw my guy here. That's your O, that's your H, and the leftover is the A. Okay, I have to use this side because that's what I'm looking for. That's the missing side, and I have to use this side because that's the only side they give me info on. So I'm using O and H this time. So I'm using sine. So sine of the angle equals O over H. Fill in your info. The angle is 42, the O is 2.7, and the H this time we don't know, it's K. Alright, this is a different question than this one because the variable ends up on the bottom, so don't guess. Use your algebra to help you solve. To get this question easier, you can't have the variable on the bottom. You've got to move it up. So if I move the K up to this side, I get K times sine 42 equals 2.7. Is the K by itself? No, I've got the sine 42. I've got to move the whole thing over. So if it's timesing on this side, if I take the whole sine 42 and move it over, it's going to divide. So I'll get K equals 2.7 divided by sine 42. So I've got to do that in my calculator. And this time I get an answer of just over 4 centimeters. So that's your answer. Done. If you're confused about the algebra, pause this. Watch it over again. Do not skip this if you don't understand this, because the rest of it will be confusing. If you do understand it, you can move on. So we'll move on to question 4. Drawing the pictures is a little harder, but an easy way of doing this is always draw your ground. If there's a ground, it just makes it easier to kind of go from. So in this question, it says you have a telephone pole that was blown off its vertical position. So obviously you have a ground, and there was a telephone pole here, but it got blown over. Okay, so I'm going to draw it. Okay, so it's like that now. And it's 10 meters long, so we know the whole telephone pole is 10 meters long. That's the whole telephone pole. And the top of the pole was then 9 meters above the ground. So if I climbed up to the top and fell off, right, I would have fallen head first 9 meters to the ground. Okay, we know this is 90 degrees. The question is saying, what was the angle of inclination of the pole to the nearest tenth of a degree? So in other words, now that it's no longer 90 degrees, it's blown over, what is that angle to the ground? So what is the angle that this pole is making with the ground? Because remember, this is the ground. Okay, so we want to know what is this angle. So you're looking from here. Label your triangle. So that's my O, that's my H, and that's my A. Okay, figure out which two sides you're using so you can figure out which function to use. You must use the O and you must use the H to tell you info to solve the missing angle. Remember, you need 2 of 3. You can't use the A, it's useless. We don't know how long it is. So we're going to use O and H, meaning we're using sine. So write out the formula. Sine of the angle equals O over H. We don't know the angle, so I leave it as theta. The O we know is 9 and the H is 10. So in my calculator, I need to find the angle. So remember, -1 is for angles. So I'm going to move the sign over, so it becomes 9 over 10 sine -1. So in my calculator, I'm going to go 9 divided by 10, press equals, then press second function or shift, and press the sign. So you get sine -1, and it'll give you the angle of 64.2 degrees. Okay. On to the next example. Sometimes you're going to have questions where there's multiple triangles. On this one here, you need to solve one triangle and the other, and usually there's some info that helps you solve the secondary triangle. So we know this is 37. We want to know the measure of xy. So I want to know what is this, or xw, sorry. I want to know what is that. Well, on this one here, if this is 90 degrees, it means this is 90 degrees. But I can't solve this unless I know one of the sides. And I know this side, but I don't know this height. And you look for something that's shared between these two. So this would be shared. So I need to find this first before I can find that, because I need to know one other piece on this right triangle here. Okay, so that's easy. Let's look at the left triangle first. Draw your dude. This makes this your O, this is your H, and this is your A. So I'm going to use O because I have to find that, and I use the H because that's what I know, and this is useless, so I'm not using the A. So I'm using sine. So sine 37 equals your O over your H. So sine of 37 equals your x over 12.5. So this is a multiplication one because to move the 12.5 up to the other side, I'll have to cross multiply and bring it over, and that will leave x by itself. So x will equal sine 37 times 12.5, but do sine 37 first in your calculator and then multiply it by 12.5. And when I do that, I get 7.52. So here I get 7.52, and that's the height from x to y. Now I've got enough information to solve this right triangle on the right side. So if I redrew the right side, this would be 7.52. This is 52. This we don't know. And there's your right angle. So I draw my person from this side. That becomes your O, that's your H, and that's your A. So I have to use the O and the H. The A is useless. So again, I'm using sine. So this time I would get sine of the angle, which is 52, O divided by H, so 7.52 divided by the H, which is a question mark. We don't know what it is. Okay? So the next thing I got to do is solve for it. So this one is not straight multiplication, it's division. And I'm going to pause the video there and continue on.